What would be the price? Divided by 36. How much is that? What is 30 divided by 36? That's the price, right? What's 30 divided by 36? 183. That's 0.83. So that should be 20 times, that's 16.6 plus, that's 26.6, right? So around it. You have a subsidy, so we need the inverse. That's the inverse demand. The inverse supply, that's the inverse supply. That's the inverse supply. So in the case of subsidy, the price consumer pays should be what producer gets minus the subsidy. And demand and supply should be the same. So to apply them, that's what you should do. That's the post-subsidy case. If you arrange it, that's what you get. 40 divided by 16, that's 2.5, right? This is 2.5. That's 2.5. So that should be 2.5 plus 0.5 plus 0.25, I guess. That's 3.25. So you should be able to find Q easily. What is Q? That's the post-subsidy equilibrium, which should be to the right. It should be to the right. So how much is it? What's the post-subsidy equilibrium? What is what you get from there? It will be more than 26.6. 28, 29, 28.8. 28.8. Okay, so this is what the consumer gets from the subsidy. So I split into 1 and 2 as before. This is what producer gets from the subsidy. And I have to split it in 2 as well. That's 3. That's 4. To solve it, I need the price. So I'll put 28.8 there. Give me the price consumer pays, which should be 11.2 divided by 16. How much is 11.2 divided by 16? 0.7?
Yeah.
How do you get 0.7? 11.2 divided by 16 is 0.7?
Yeah, it's 0.7.
0.7. That's 0.7. That's 9.5. Somehow it doesn't sound right. Did I make a mistake? Is that 28.8 right?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right? So that's 28.8. 40 minus 28.8 is 11.2. So we'll find that, right? We'll find it. It's fine. Sounds off a bit, I don't know why. Anyway, the change in the consumer surplus is 1 plus 2. 1 is 13 multiplied by 26.6. 2 is 13 cents multiplied by 2.2 divided by 2. I think, I'm not sure if I invite or not, that's rounded a bit, it's probably is it 28.8 or 28.9?
28.9.
0.9,
Or
right?
28.88. So 28.9.
That's 3, then that's 0.9. It's slightly up, it's fine. If this was test was, it was fine, but I want to have it right. So that should be 69 cents divided by 69. So that should be 14 cents. That's what the consumer gets. Producer gets 3, which is 11, multiplied by 26.6, plus 4, which is 11, cents multiplied by 2. This should be 2.3 now, right? 2.3 divided by 2. That's that. The government loses, it pays 25 cents on 28.9 units. So that is the government surplus loss. So graphically, debit loss as before should be this area. So if you sum these 3, you get DW. It should be equal to 25 cents multiplied by 2.3 divided by 2. That's what you should get, right? If you sum this 3 up, you should definitely get that one. Is that 28 cents or 29 cents? How much is this one? That's 28 to 29. So that's 1.11, well that's 1.15 multiplied by 0.25. 28 or 29? That should be 29? 29 cents. So if you sum these 2 up, you should get 29 cents. You do, right? Okay, that is subsidy. I'll do the same one, but I do floor. Suppose the government set a floor of $1. The same numbers, the same demand supply, but the floor is 1. So let's do it here. We have the same one. That's the same. But there's a floor of $1. That's the minimum price you can charge. How much would they demand? If you put 1 in the demand, what do you get? If you put 1 here, you get 24. So at that price, the demand will be 24. Right? Make sense? So case number 1. Suppose you have a price floor, you force the producer to produce at demand. That's case number 1. Suppose the demand and supply are equal. So both are equal to 24. That was case number 1. So in that case, that is what consumer was getting before. Now the consumer gets this. So consumer loses A and C. You lose A because they have a price, you lose D, C because they buy less. A is equal to 17 cents multiplied by 24. C C is equal to 17 cents multiplied by the distance, which is 2.6, divided by 2. That's A, that's C. Right? That is consumer loss. Producer surplus was this before. Now it becomes this. Right? So producer gains A, that's the transfer of surplus from consumer, but loses D because they sell less. Right? We already calculated A, so no reason to redo. You have to calculate D. To calculate D, we need this point. So let's go back to the demand, to the supply, put 24 in, see what you get. If you put 24 here, what would be the price? 70 cents? That sounds like 70 cents, right? That's 14 divided by 20. This looks like 70 cents. So we can calculate D then. D should be 13 cents multiplied by 2.6 divided by 2. Right? And that what I said, the sum of these two. Which will be C and D loss because A is transferred. So that weight loss is minus 30 multiplied by 2.6 divided by 2. How much is that? $0.39? That sounds like 39 cents, right? That is deadweight loss for Canadian version of price flow. Right? Okay? Okay. Case number 2. You leave the producer to produce as they wish. You cannot quota the production, that's Euler's case, right? So now, the producer will be producing how much? We're not going to be producing 24. We'll produce more. Put one in the supplier, see what you get. If you put one there, that is 30. Right? That's 30. Okay. What's the change in the consumer surplus in this case? Let's see. Consumer surplus was this before, now it becomes it's the same loss. So the consumer is the same thing. Whether they do case 1 or case 2, they still lose A and C. Right? So consumer is the same. Under 2 scenarios, they're going to lose A and C, and we already have those. What about producer? Well, producer is different because now it's going to produce more. The producer surplus before was this. Now it becomes how much? Now it becomes this. So they gain A, they gain C, and they gain E. Right? A, C, E. We have A, so we don't have to do it. We have C, so we don't have to redo it. We have to calculate E, right? How much is E? Well, the height is 17 cents. The length is 6. So 17 multiplied by 6 divided by 2. Right? Height, length. So if you add them up, the consumer altogether, that is a wash. The consumer altogether, that's the gain for the consumer. How much is this? You take that, sorry, private sector, not consumer. If you add consumer producer as a private sector, they gain that one. That sounds like 51 cents, right? But it's 51 cents in gain, which is basically E. Right? But there is government. The government has to support the floor. So they buy all these excess. That is the loss for them. So the government will pay $1 on how many units? On how many units? They pay $1 on how many units? On all the excess. They buy the excess. The excess is 6 units. That is what they buy. So dead weight loss is the sum of these two, which is 5.1. This is far bigger than case number 1. 10 times bigger, right? It's obviously exaggerated by the way the amount of supply was, but the US case is far worse than the Canadian case, because you buy tons of goods and you have to get rid of them. Right? Make sense? You can see it in the graph. This is so small. This is smaller than the whole thing, right? The loss in the case number 2 is different color. Case number 2 is M. That M obviously includes C and D. Right? Makes sense? So no matter what happens, case number 2 gives you a higher D double. Right? Okay. Anyway, just a note, when this price floor was on a test, it's not like just solve it. Then you say case number 1, this it tells you, right? It tells you, suppose the government rations production at demand. Or suppose the government cannot ration production at demand. Basically, I give you which case it is. You're not supposed to do both cases. Alright? Make sense? Okay, that is it. Lecture number 8, 9. I'm going to go to one operating.